Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel. Pro-XRP attorney John Deaton set a trap of sorts for the SEC attorneys, and they fell for it. So I'm going to share with you the specifics of what this is. And just to make sure everybody is aware to this point of what's going on, and I did make a video on this topic of what's the most recent legal developments yesterday. Attorney John Deaton, he is seeking to intervene in the SEC versus Ripple case. And so he has officially filed a motion to intervene. We're waiting to hear back ultimately from the judgment of determination. But yesterday we did get court filings from Ripple and from the SEC. They both plopped them down at about the same time, probably within a matter of hours of each other. And so yesterday morning, before those documents were made public, John Deaton, he sent me a message on Twitter and said, hey, I'd like to email you something. And he wanted to lay out what his plan was, basically, setting a trap, a figurative trap for the SEC prior to these documents becoming public. And so I said, yeah, of course, feel free to send me information. So he ended up sending me an email, and he just said, now just don't talk about this until the SEC has a chance to respond, but after that, he said it's perfectly fine. And so the SEC responded, and I looked at what he wrote, and I thought, okay, well, yeah, happy to share this, because, look, John's incredible, and I want to do everything I can to use my platform to just kind of expand the reach that he already has, just to kind of spread the idea of the work he's doing, his thoughts, his perspective, the whole thing. And so I said, I sent him a message, and I just said, I just want to make sure, is there anything in the email that you sent me that I cannot cover? And he said, no, you can talk about any of it. And so I'm going to cover that in this video, along with this. Look at this piece from you today. SEC says XRP holders are compelling it to bring enforcement action against them, which is absolutely outrageous, but this is what they're doing. So before we go any further, there's a lot to break down here, but I do want to be clear that I don't have a legal or financial background of any kind. I am not offering legal or financial advice, and you definitely should not buy or sell anything because of anything that I say or write. I'm just an enthusiast who enjoys making YouTube videos as a fun hobby about Ripple and XRP and crypto in general, but that is all that's going down here. So I'm going to start with this piece, and then I will share with you some of the specifics that attorney John Deaton shared with me. But I'll tell you what, John Deaton's expectation of what would be likely the SEC's behavior and part of how they ultimately responded, he was spot on. They fell for the trap. They definitely did. But let's go ahead and break into this piece first. Again titled, SEC says XRP holders are compelling it to bring enforcement action against them. That's right, we're asking the SEC to act against us, as if they haven't already done that, right? I feel like they've acted against us already. Let me just say that. But the piece begins as follows. The U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission is seeking to prevent XRP holders from injecting themselves into the Ripple lawsuit, explaining that it hasn't charged any individual secondary market investors. In its opposition to the motion to intervene, it states that the movements are compelling it to bring an enforcement action against them, which is a decision committed to the agency's discretion. So right there, they're referencing their opposition to the motion to intervene, which they filed yesterday. And they're saying that's up to our discretion here. Look at this quote. Movements are essentially seeking to compel the SEC to bring an enforcement action against individual secondary market XRP investors. And I read that and I'm just like, what? And you just wait, because in a moment I'm going to share with you also opinion from another attorney who has been very active in sharing his opinion with the XRP community, Jeremy Hogan. I got something to share from him as well. And he just so beautifully articulates what's going on. Anyway, the regulator adds that such private claims are barred by sovereign immunity, an argument that was originally made in its motion to dismiss the investors' failed petition for a writ of mandamus. And so this idea of sovereign immunity is basically the SEC saying, because we are a government entity, we are protected from legal claims against us. And this is not something that's new. You see this, with typically with police officers as well. There's immunity against specific charges, because if you're in a position like this with, you're the federal government police officer, and I'm not saying whether this is right or wrong, I'm just citing what is. You're more likely to get a whole mountain of litigation against you just because of the nature of the position that you're in. And so they're citing right here that these claims that John Deaton has put forth, they're barred by the SEC's sovereign immunity, which to me just seems like they're trying to sneakily, slimily get their way out of this. Whatever argument they can make, they're going to throw it out there, and they're just going to see what sticks. That's what they've been doing. That's what it looks like to me. Through the duration of this case, that's exactly what they've been doing. I don't know that they buy their own BS. I'm not convinced they do, but they're certainly trying everything that they can do here. And so it's just funny that they're claiming because of sovereign immunity, the interests of XRP holders, which are not sufficiently represented in this case, don't deserve to be represented in this case. They say that, but then they say something else too, which I'm going to share with you in just a moment, which Jeremy Hogan talks about, which it just makes your brain will explode when you see exactly what's going on here, because the SEC, they're just talking out of both sides of their mouth here. It's completely ridiculous. Anyway, piece continues. Furthermore, the SEC asserts that the movements cannot obtain any relief from exchanges that have suspended XRP trading or delisted the token, since they are not a party to the lawsuit. Yeah, okay, so right there, if you want to get any sort of relief from these exchanges, and if the SEC is going to have anything to do with it, apparently, if I'm reading this correctly, it looks like you'd have to have something separately filed, because they're not a part of this. Now, mind you, and maybe some people will go this route, in terms of going after the exchanges for halting trading of XRP, this or that. I still squarely blame the SEC for all of this. And just, even if people go after the exchanges, okay. But I mean, if there's fair warning of all this, I'm sympathetic to the exchanges. Not everybody is as sympathetic to the exchanges as I am, but I'm just putting myself in their shoes. I'm like, damn, if I'm running their business and I got to protect myself, my family, my business, my employees, and my employees' families from legal attacks from the SEC, which has practically infinite money. Just out of an abundance of caution, if anything, what do you think? They were forced into this position. They can't control all of this. That's the way I look at it anyway. But anyway, the piece continues. The SEC claims that the movements haven't actually brought any new merits arguments to the table, which is a broken sentence. But anyway, instead they copied the ones that had already been made by Ripple. And so this is where it gets interesting. You just wait. Then this part ties specifically also to what Jeremy Hogan had to say, and you will see why in just a moment. The investors offer a list of rehashed statements that focus on XRP's regulatory status, its alleged uses, and other uses that are being vigorously litigated by the existing parties. Well, not surprisingly, Ripple disagrees with that. I disagree with that too. Because all sorts of points that John Deaton is making on behalf of himself and the 16,000 plus XRP holders that want to be represented and intervene in this case, John's making all sorts of cases and points that are not being brought up by Ripple. So even if there is some overlap, so what? That doesn't matter. It doesn't change the case that the interests of XRP holders, that is not at the core of what Ripple is focusing on. Okay, it just isn't. To any degree, if there's overlap, maybe there is some, fine, but it doesn't matter. You need this third party. The XRP holders as a whole, they need to be represented as just this third separate entity. Absolutely. Because there's endless number of not just holders, investors, whatever you want to call them, but there's developers, all sorts of third parties the world over that have been impacted supremely negatively because of the SEC. It's bogus on all counts what they're saying here. But anyway, piece continues. Furthermore, the SEC states that XRP holders are attempting to start a crusade against the government agency to expose its alleged corruption. And we're going to be breaking into this too, because this has a lot to do with what John Deaton emailed me before all this stuff came out yesterday. The stuff about the alleged corruption. It also implies that attorney John Deaton, who's spearheading the effort, is trying to boost his Twitter clout. My gosh. This is not why he started doing this, guys. I mean, could it not be more clear that he's just operating in good faith? In fact, when he started this whole thing, he thought it was perhaps more likely than not that the holders, investors of XRP, whatever you want to call them, that they would have been against his motion, because typically what you see, well, initially when he filed the writ of mandamus, because typically what you see in these cases is that if the SEC is going after somebody, alleging that they harmed investors and sold an unregistered security, typically the people that invested are rooting for the SEC. That is not the case here, right? John didn't do this for any sort of clout. He did this all for the right reasons. That couldn't be more crystal clear, and his message has been consistent throughout all of this. It is. It keeps expanding as we learn more and more details about what's going on here, but the core message, he hasn't wavered on any of that, right? And so here's a snippet here. Between February 28th and March 14th, 2021, this is the snippet from the SEC, Deaton, noting that he was increasingly popular on Twitter for his efforts, pivoted from a strategy of seeking mandamus to collecting participants in a potential class action against the SEC. Now, this is an outright falsehood. I know this because it was pretty much immediately after he filed the writ of mandamus that he was talking publicly about the overarching strategy, because there's actually basically a time. Now, mind you, I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not going to know all of the proper legal terms for this, but basically a timer gets set from when you file that towards when you can actually ultimately file a class action lawsuit against them. So these two things are not separate things. It's not like he was getting popular. He's like, oh, no, I want to file a class action lawsuit. No, that is not what happened. And the SEC knows that. They're just being disgusting here. And he was stating this in the very earliest of days. We're talking early January this year. Like it had to have been, admittedly I'm pulling from memory, but it had to have been, I would think, within the first several days or so from when he initially filed that writ of mandamus. That was part of the strategy, because without doing that, you can't ultimately sue the SEC. They are protected. They're part of the federal government, right? That's just how it goes. And of course, Ripple does want Deaton and the XRP holders to be represented in this case. They want them to be able to intervene, at least in a limited capacity, as I highlighted in my video yesterday, which I'm not going to get into today. And so there was this from attorney Jeremy Hogan. Take a look at this. In response to all the shenanigans that are going on, attorney Jeremy Hogan wrote the following on Twitter: "Legal bizarro world. The SEC argues in its opposition to XRP holders' motion to intervene that XRP holders' alleged interests, if any, are adequately represented by Ripple." And then he writes, "Isn't it the SEC's mandate to represent the purchasers of XRP? That's what its website says." And folks, he is not kidding. Let me take a sip of water here. I'm talking a lot here. All right, so he's not kidding. It is on their website. So think about what he's saying here, right? This is so comical to me. It's like, it's just one of those additional moments where it's like, SEC attorneys, did you think through what you wrote before you wrote it? Do you think through what you say before you say it? It's like thought process first, words out the mouth later. Like, not the other way around, okay? Look at this. So think about this. The SEC, their mission is to protect investors, right? And here you have the SEC saying, well, no, the investors, they shouldn't be able to intervene, of course. They're represented by Ripple. Wait. You're saying that Ripple is representing the investors, but it's your mission, SEC, to represent the investors. What in the ever-loving hell is going on? Holy hell. It's absolutely ridiculous out here. And so it's like, this burns my biscuits, guys. This really burns my biscuits. And Jeremy Hogan is correct. That is what it says on their website. In fact, I pulled it up for good measure. Here's the SEC website. About the SEC. The mission, this is what it says on their website. The mission of the SEC is to protect investors, maintain fair, orderly, and efficient markets, and facilitate capital formation. The SEC strives to promote a market environment that is worthy of the public's trust. Okay, well, you're eroding my trust. I'm one piece of this. I'm a tiny piece of this. Fine. I'm just one little simple moon Lambo. Fine. But you stated right here, your words, SEC, the mission of the SEC is to protect investors. I'm underlining it right now with my mouse, going back and forth, left and right, very fast. Do you see this? Should we send this? Do we need to like print this up and mail it to the SEC attorneys? Maybe they missed this. They may not be aware of what their purpose is. I'm not sure. Like, do I at them on Twitter? Are they on? They are on Twitter. Maybe oh my God. I'm having a little bit of fun with this because it's so absurd. It is so absurd and disgusting and ridiculous here. So there you go. The SEC is supposed to be protecting the investors, the XRP holders, and they say no, Ripple should do it. And they're attacking Ripple. So if they're attacking Ripple, who's representing us, the XRP holders, that's the SEC attacking us. What in the ever-loving hell, guys? That's how logic works. That is what they are doing. Jeremy Hogan then said the following. And since there is a class action by XRP purchasers who feel cheated by Ripple, as the SEC likes to remind the court every filing, then what is the need for the SEC's lawsuit? Those who feel cheated can join the class action, and those who don't can move on and enjoy life. Done. Another well-said tweet. Guys, you can't make this stuff up. Here's a tweet from John Deaton from yesterday. And this is before those documents came out. He wrote, time-stamped prediction. When you can't attack the message, attack the messenger. And so he put something out there publicly too. But this is when the same time range that he also contacted me. I mean, he contacted me. It was probably like 8:30 in the morning. I didn't get his message until hours later when I finally hopped onto Twitter. But I said, yeah, of course, go ahead and email me. And shortly thereafter, he did send an email. And it was before all of this went down. And part of the reason that he's doing this is just in case there are people that said, yeah, that wasn't part of your plan. But it was. And so I'm going to share with you those specifics now. And so here it is. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to read this whole email, but what I did was I went ahead and just printed it up and I highlighted some of the pertinent parts here. And so I don't know that I'm going to read even all of the highlighted parts, but at a minimum, I wanted to make sure I talked about the stuff that he highlighted here. But don't worry, you're going to get everything that he wanted that he did convey to me. Get the message across. I'm going to share with you here now. And so this part I will, this is a direct quote from him that he sent to me in the email. This is from John Deaton now. I intentionally tried to goad them by tweeting out things like the SEC is a cesspool of corruption. And so I did notice this, and like I don't have a problem with any of this stuff, because to be perfectly honest, I'm disgusted by the SEC. And I did assume that the SEC would see this stuff, and interestingly, because I don't think I publicly stated it, but I did at least a couple times question, I wonder if the SEC will have something to say about that, like in court or in a filing or something like that. And as it turns out, there was a reason for all of this, and so ultimately, John Deaton in his email to me, he said that he was predicting that the SEC was likely going to try and attack him personally, and tell the judge that she shouldn't let he and the 16,000 plus XRP holders intervene because John actually wanted to put the SEC on trial and use one or more of his tweets as an exhibit to show her that's his main motive, and therefore shouldn't let him in the case. So that's what he was thinking the SEC was going to say. And he was right. And so then he tweeted out yesterday, and he tagged me along with a few others, "Thank you for being so predictable." And he also wrote this. And this is another tweet. And this one's from this morning today, May 4th. "When you resort to attacking the messenger and not the message, you have lost the debate." That's a quote from somebody I'm not familiar with, named Addison Withcombe, if I'm saying that correctly. Yep, sounds about right. I think that's what's going on here. And so anyway, and then John went on to tell me that he was hoping actually that they excuse me. He was hoping that they'd go down this road and do exactly that, as far as just get off message and attack him rather than, stay on focus at the core issues. Because, and here's the thing, if they did that, if they would end up doing that, which we now know they did, then John would have the opportunity to defend what he said on Twitter by showing the court, the judge, the proof of possible corruption within the SEC. And so I'm not going to talk about that as much, go into details. I've covered it so sufficiently on this channel. I'm sorry if you don't know what it's about. Just stay tuned. There will be more discussion on it to look at some of my previous videos, but there are some not so good optics surrounding behavior during Jay Clayton's, former SEC chair's time at the SEC, as well as former SEC director William Hinman. Some not so good optics when you look at what they did at the SEC, as well as what they did after. And so I'm not claiming they did necessarily anything illegal. I don't have evidence of that, but the optics are bad, and certainly there are serious ethical questions as to their behavior at a minimum. And so it could be proof of corruption potentially, and so that's what John Deaton was talking about here. And so, because the SEC brought up what he cited, now he can go ahead and talk about this and get this information in front of the judge, which frankly he wouldn't have otherwise been able to do. Let me move down a little bit further. Here we go. Yeah. So, and by the way, he did mention this as well. Previously, even before this, they had already brought up like his alleged motives before, and that's why you had actually seen, if you've been paying attention, you may have seen him make statements along these lines before, like when you attack the messenger rather than the message, that's an indication you're losing, and they actually had done that before. And then he wrote the following. This is a quote now. I honestly believe that they know they shouldn't have filed the case the way they did, and they have a guilty conscience. When you have a guilty conscience, then you get super defensive and act like a victim. It's similar to how the SEC claims Ripple is harassing the SEC. It's projection. Yes, spot on. I think he's absolutely nailing it right there. And I think they must have realized, not only was it actually, maybe they only realized the first part. I was going to say maybe they realized at this point, it was like I shouldn't have even thought it down the route. Like, of course I don't think it's ethically wrong. That's where my brain went for like a split second. But from a strategic perspective, this has certainly been a mistake, the way that they've been pursuing this, because they would have been fine. Like, they wouldn't have John Deaton and all XRP holders basically on the planet being pissed off at them if they had just gone after Ripple. If they had just claimed that XRP, that Ripple sold itself, that represented back then an investment contract when XRP was more or was less central or less decentralized than it is now. If it were those claims, you wouldn't even have John Deaton attempting to intervene at all. Like, I think that's pretty damn clear. I mean, I feel like, I don't want to put words in John Deaton's mouth, but I think he's effectively said as much, right? And so, hopefully they do have a guilty conscience, but I don't know. That part, actually, now I'm thinking about it, but I don't know if they care. They may realize that it's a strategic blunder. Maybe John's right. Maybe they have a guilty conscience. I hope they feel bad because they've done horrible things here. But at a minimum, yeah, this is strategically not a good thing for them, because now they're getting hit from another side. But they brought it upon themselves. I'm not sympathetic to them at all in this case. They brought this to themselves. And then here's another quote from John Deaton. A lot of XRP holders have asked me, will the judge learn about the conflicts of interest or corruption at the SEC? The reality is that all the bad motive is irrelevant to our motion to intervene. We either meet the 4-factor test on intervention or we don't. Okay, yeah, so that's the quote. So then you might be asking, okay, well then what's the point of all this? Well, my opinion, these are my words now, not his. I think that outside influences do matter. Like, if you think conceptually about the reason that like a jury gets sequestered, right? You could tell the jury only consider in your deliberations so and so and so, whatever important factors may be. But if other things enter their minds, that they're human, right? That can taint the way they think right now. And so, this is not to say, and John isn't saying this either, this is not to say anything negative about the judge, but John Deaton thinks pretty clearly that it's important to get this information in front of the judge, just to make sure that the judge is aware of it. And maybe she would have been anyway. Maybe. That's a maybe, though. But now it seems like a virtual certainty, because since the SEC brought this up and attacked John Deaton, he's going to be allowed to talk about it in response, right? He's going to be able to. And so now the SEC, the judge is going to be aware of this information, that even if it's not what's going to be ruled on here, and it's not, and John Deaton knows that, the point is that, he was saying these things to get this response so that he could talk about this in court. There you go. And he was expecting this, hoping for this response from the SEC, and this is part of what they responded with. This is what happened. So, and so that's why he said, this is one of the last things he wrote in this email to me. He said, Quote, if the SEC attacks me by saying, look what he said about the SEC, I would be able to bring up the evidence showing bad motives to defend what I said. There you go. End quote. And so, I'm just saying, I think that it's worth the judge knowing everything that couldn't be publicly known on all of this stuff. And, and even if it's not what's being ruled on, I would be all for that. And now it looks like a foregone conclusion that this is going to have to be discussed. So there we are. My gosh, there's just so much to talk about. Can you believe this stuff? Like my videos, when I make videos on any sort of legal development, it's like a virtual certainty that they go a lot longer. Like, even if I try to keep them short, there's no way to do it if I'm going to sufficiently cover all this stuff and say everything I feel needs to be said. So here we are. You know what? They're however long they need to be. But there we are. So anyway, John Deaton, I hope you're listening. Thank you very much for sharing this with me. Thank you for everything that you're doing for the XRP community and for allowing me to share some of the stuff that you emailed to me just yesterday. It's really incredible what you're doing, John. I really do hope you're listening. You're killing it. Thank you very much. Keep doing it. You're providing hope for XRP investors who otherwise are not being protected by anyone, really. And that's not a dig at Ripple either. It's not their job to. It's not their job to protect us, right? So anyway, we'll just see how this all unfolds. There's going to be a lot more to say. I know John Deaton, I don't think he may have, unless he's done within the last few hours, and maybe he has. He was going to talk about what's going on with, or his response in terms of like what the SEC has had to say. So there's going to be more to cover and break down and talk about here, but this will be a good stopping point for now. But oh man, man, should this be like a soap opera or something? A daily soap? It's just like the never-ending drama. All right, I'll wrap up there. I'm not a financial advisor. Do not buy or sell anything because of anything that I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo.